this week. Now, when we left you on Friday, there was stories by numerous college football analysts and writers and columnists who were discussing what was being floated out among college football leaders about the 14-team playoff proposal and also format when they haven't even gone to 12. But one of them was the automatic qualifiers, the number of teams that the Big Ten and the SEC, the Big 12 and the ACC would get. And I'll tell you this, from what I have been told, and it was the ACC and the Big 12 almost like some were saying, hey, take this. John Wilner will join us at 4. He has a reason to think that they should too. He'll be on with us today at 4. But I was told over the weekend that pretty much to a man that every AD in the Big 12 is basically saying this is BS. They're not going to just give in to not enough qualifiers and or the qualifiers in general as far as like we're going to get more money and also we're going to get more spots because then you get even more money. And so there is that. And we will hear from Jamie Pollard of Iowa State, the AD there, on Tuesday's show tomorrow.
Well, I don't think it's just about the number of automatic qualifiers. It's also about that stupid buy crap.
Yeah, no, that the AQs and the buys.
Yeah.
Which version are we talking about here? There's various versions. There's the one where they get one automatic qualifier. There's one where they get a couple. So I think there's a difference there in what you're pushing back against because
the one where the Big Ten and the SEC would get 3 automatic qualifiers. The ACC and the Big 12 would get 2 automatic qualifiers, and the Big Ten and the SEC would also get a first-round bye. That's the one that the Big 12 ADs, from what I'm being told, have said to basically, Brett Yormark, you're on your own on this one. We don't want this.
Yeah, I mean, I do think there's a lot of politicking going on, obviously, and I do think the Big 12 and the ACC have to be mindful of the situation. I think they have to be mindful of how much of a trap they could be walking into depending on what door they want to enter because there is the element of, hey, we're trying and you guys just refuse to play ball with us. And it's like you're demanding more qualifiers automatically and you're also getting buys that we don't get. So we don't think that's unfair. Yeah, but we hold all the cards. So how much of a plank do you want to walk out there on and how mindful do you want to be of how much leverage you actually have or don't have? I think that's going to be the interesting battle because, to the response of an automatic qualifier only allowed to go to 2 conferences, I do think that's BS. I think giving them extra auto qualifiers in comparison, like 3 versus 2 or something along those lines, I think that's fair to do and to have set up. But at some point, you can't have everything. And so, the tug and what am I trying to say here? The tug of war back and forth with who gets what and all of that's going to be fascinating because there's many more conversations to come, and I don't think either side's going to lie down easily, but I know one side better sleep with one eye open because you don't know what's being worked up, and you already know the TV networks are on their side more than they're on your side because they make more money for the TV networks, and the TV networks are some of the ones pulling the strings. Not saying they're the ones making all the calls, but if they're going to have to choose in the long run what they're going to invest more in, they've already done that. We've seen that. So, what leverage do you even have to play around with? Figure that out, and then, fight as much as you can, but there also will come a point where they could just say, all right, then we are going to break off, and then you're done. And then you better be ready to have a response to whatever that is, and you better be ready to do your own thing potentially. So, there's a lot of options out there on the table and a lot of discussions to go, but I don't know if I'd say tread lightly, but just tread smartly if you're the Big 12 and the ACC.
And the problem with the TV people being so influential in this is, look, you do need their input and that like their expertise is valued, but on the whole, they're going to take the path of least resistance every time because they've got shareholders. Like these are big, gigantic conglomerates. They've got to be able to sell pretty hard numbers to people and not things that are kind of in theory. And that's where the SEC and Big Ten have the other two kind of up against the wall because they've created this gigantic, brand farm of all these college football names
that they can go dip into really if they want to ever again because all they need to do is say, we want to go get Kansas now.
Yeah.
And then talk with the networks and go. And we already know ESPN's not exactly anti-cratering a conference here, fellas. But so there is that part of it as well. To your point, Paul.
So like they're only gonna look at it this way, and they're not gonna look at all these other things. And you know, as you've seen with anything, and it goes with media negotiations, a lot of times that they'll roll the dice on what they want as their ideal situation and fix it on the back end. And so if their ideal situation doesn't involve a lot of these teams, even if that winds up being a bad idea, they can always fix it on the back end, you know, because they think their idea is the best idea.
Well, here's the thing. It's just the timing of it all. Mm-hmm. I mean, if there was a playoff in place for another 8 years, then I don't think you're sweating it too much. The fact of the matter is you go tell somebody to break off and they say, okay, and they got the power of the networks behind them, and they've got 2 years to sit there and get this situated. And then it's all free and clear in 2 years. There's not like a bunch of contracts you'd have to buy out and do all those different things. Not saying it would be as easy as that, but that upcoming contract and with all that's being talked about and conversed about right now and argued over, that's the timing is very interesting and a big part of that whole storyline as well. So, yeah, the pushback, I'm glad to hear that. But, you know, to what extent can you do that without crossing a line? That's going to be the tricky part of all this.
John Wilner, again, at 4 o'clock, his article today, College Football Controversy, Playoff Controversy, proposal for AQ spots actually, this is his opinion, benefits the Big 12 and ACC once realignment kicks in. He'll join us at 4, Matt Brown at 3:30. Also, here are the quotes. Dave Wilson did a great job, got some quotes from some coaches who are a part of the Big 12 and also the ACC when that was floated on Friday, over the week, really. Sonny Dykes said automatic first-round buys for the Big 10 and SEC is like the NFL saying the Cowboys get a first-round bye since they have more fans than the Bengals. How preposterous is that? Also, more from Big 12 and ACC coaches, Mike Gundy, a playoff format that guarantees a first-round bye to any team, division or conference before the season starts is unheard of in any sport as far as I'm aware. Based on the premise proposed, a team could be undefeated, ranked number 1 in the country, and still not receive a first-round bye because teams were awarded one before the season ever began. Here's one from Mike Gundy again. This is from Gundy. We need to let the teams decided on the field reward those who are most deserving. It's not rocket science. And Mac Brown, North Carolina football coach, I feel the 4 conference champs should be treated equally and all should have a first-round bye. It's hard to be a champion, so it does matter. Those are 4 that came out Friday. Great job by our good friend Dave Wilson on the article.
Yeah, 4 with a first-round bye, you know, is essentially what we're going to have, you know, going forward with 12. And that doesn't even mean they're conference champions. It's just however it goes. But I could not agree with Mike Gundy more. To determine it before the season. And it's one of those things that you don't even have to, like, do that much work to figure out, like, to go back and say, like, okay, well, there's bad years in every conference's history where they would not have had a team that deserved a first-round bye. Even the mighty SEC and Big Ten. There are years that has that. So giving them that beforehand is just insane. It's just insane. Now, if you want to, you know, 3-3, 2-2, bye, like, you know, as far as automatic qualifiers, if that's the compromise you have to make, I guess it is. And like I said before, part of the reason that Greg Sankey never wanted automatic qualifiers was because in his plan for world domination, saying that you're only going to get 3 means that there's going to be years where he only gets 3 when he could have 6.
Right.
And that's not what he wants. He wants to be able to say, like, well, we've got, you know, all these teams, we've got half the playoff field. That's why the SEC is better. But if you're on the other side of that coin, if you're the Big 12, knowing if you only have 1, then a lot of years they're probably only going to give you that 1. So it's a very interesting balance that you have to try and navigate through all this.
Yeah, I mean, just talking about, you know, pushing back and kind of knowing what to push on and how much leverage you have and all that. The one thing that I would not stop pushing against is the automatic burst for the SEC and the Big Ten. I think that's absolutely effing ridiculous. I think that's a terrible idea. I don't care how good, how much money they make, how many brands they have. I think that's just ruining the entire spirit of the game itself. It's to sit there and say, these 2 get buys before even games are played. That's not college football, man. I don't care how popular you are or how many teams you have in your conference, how much territory you can claim. That's garbage. That is garbage to sit there and say, we haven't played a game, but these two get automatic bursts. The NFL doesn't do that. No, I mean, as Gundy pointed out, or Tykes, no sport does this. And so here's college football again with the worst postseason execution of any major sport for the majority of the time that I've been watching sports, if not all. And this is just an awful idea in my estimation. And this is one that, you know, like Paul said, the number of bursts, that's where I kind of point to the Big 12 or the ACC, whoever might push back against that and say, all right, you're going to have an argument for sure, but how much of an argument do you have? How much can you really push that? The automatic qualifiers thing, I'd burn it all down. I'd do no matter what the consequences were. And so that's why I would never be in a position like that. But that's one I'm pushing back against until I can't push back any further. You want to have extra qualifiers? Fine, because you have more money, and I mean, you're going to ultimately have an advantage either way. That's one thing that we can settle on somehow or another. You're not going to get 5 and we only get 1, but we can meet in the middle. But the whole you automatically get somebody just moving on through, no questions asked, I think that is garbage. And so I hope that's not a part of this in the long run, because even as a fan of a team that would be eligible for that, that's just not what I feel like college football is supposed to be.
Let me reiterate, and you guys both great comments, is that I've been told the ADs in the Big 12 across the board are in line with basically calling this BS. Now, when it gets to negotiations and nut-cutting time and whatever else in between, we will see what happens. I do not know what position Brett Yormark has at this particular time, but I even mentioned to somebody in administration is like, he needs to come out and say something. Somebody does. Jamie Pollard, again, Iowa State, will join us tomorrow, who's also on the NCAA men's basketball tournament committee, so it'll be fun to talk with him tomorrow. Now, Donovan Smith.